Okay. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Okay. Today, let's just go through the agenda quickly for today's session. We have it. Perfect. Yes. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Today we are in session 3 of ABAP on HANA. Okay. We started with the new ABAP syntaxes, went through the open SQL syntaxes, then we started with the application server syntaxes. As a part of which we learn multiple things like helper variable dynamic declaration, condition switch operator, and the internal table operation. Along with that, we also learn the value and in operator, okay, and the default and optional keyword that we can use with a read table when it comes to a new syntax. That is something we also learn. Yesterday, we were not able to cover a few topics due to some server issues, so that is something we would be covering today. So let's just go through the agenda. So what all we are planning to cover in today's session. So we would be going through a brief of what we did earlier. So as a kind of a quick recap, post that we would be generating an example which covers all those operations that we covered. Okay, so it would become more clear when it comes to a actual implementation, then how we are going to use those keywords that we actually learned. Then we have certain things like with empty key, with default key. So these are also few of the important keywords that is introduced by SAP for certain purposes. So what are those? That is something we would be learning. Then after this many years into SAP, we might have also heard of the conversion routines. Okay. So conversion routines we know are being used to convert the data from a form to another form, like the data which should be interpreted in backend and the data which should be presented to the user. So those input and output format. So there are certain conversion routines which are now converted to a, I can say, keyword based conversion routine. So that is something we would be seeing as well. Apart from that, we would be seeing uh, certain ways of converting our ABAP level syntaxes to something that would look like a Java kind of syntaxes. So certain shorthand operators, certain new ways of looping, certain translation operators, the reduce operator, the very famous group by operator, which would help us if we want to get rid of the loop hook methods. That is something we would be learning. Then there is a concept called mesh. Definitely in ABAP, you might see that it's not being used vastly, but whenever it comes to the upcoming topics like association and the navigations and everything, at that particular point in time, we would find those handy. So we would be seeing those mesh operations as well. Then there are certain very quick use function and max and min, and the conversion casting oops operation and corresponding operator. So this is something that we do have on our plan. So let's just get started. So in earlier session, what we learned was the I can say helper variable. So when I say a helper variable, a variable which help us with the temporary storage, a variable which help us with the temporary storage, that is something we can call it as a helper variable. That is something we learn. Then we learn the condition and switch operator, which gives us a feasibility of evaluating and assigning the variable at the same time in a single statement. That is something we also learn. We learn the internal table operations as well, how the read table syntax does have an alternative which helps us reading the internal table like we are reading an array. That is something we also learned. Okay. Now let's just kickstart today's session with an example, as a part of which we would be able to cover those topics. So for example, let's just go with an example first. Okay. So we do have a skeleton of our program ready. Now we do have our weapons ready with us. We do have our weapons, which says how we would be able to use the condition operators, the helper variables, how internal table operation can be performed easily, the value and in operator, that is something we have learned earlier. Now our target is to use and utilize those. Before we proceed with that, let me just let us just go through one more topic, or I can say a very quick one, which would also be used in this example. So I can say a new way of concatenation of a string. For example, I do have a string and I want to do some sort of concatenation out of that. For example, I do have a string called LV text, which is a sample, and I do have a another string which is called text. I want to do the concatenation of this. In older way, what we used to do is we used to perform the concatenation using some sort of statement called concatenate. But the issue over here is the concatenation statement always perform the operation on a string, and it does not have a format such sort of which gives us output in a form of LHS equal to RHS. So there is this equal to operator which is missing because it's performing its operation in this English keyword based operator. Instead, SAP has also come up with one more concatenation operator which gives us LV concatenated string, as a part of which we would be having one more operator which is called a pipe operator. So if you see, I do have a pipe operator. This pipe operator contains two things. Uh, First thing it contains is called a variables, and another thing it contains is a fixed values. When I say fixed values are nothing but the value that you are hard coding. For example, I'm writing ABC over here, XYZ, or if I am even typing a space in between and then I'm typing certain keywords. So this everything, including the space, is considered as a fixed values. Okay. In case of variable, I can say if I do have, let's just say LV underscore A, or I can say LV underscore B, or let's just say I do have a method which I am calling, for example, ABC. Okay, let's just say ZCL and ABC. This is a method which I am calling. Then this all the things which are returning me a value, be it a variable or a method, anything or a constant, are called the variables. So while concatenating, there are certain rules. If you are concatenating the fixed values, you can directly type it in, including the space. If you are concatenating a variable, you have to type the variables in a curly bracket. In a curly bracket, you have to specify that variable. You would be, if you want to give a space in between, you can also specify the variable like this. If you want to call a method, you can also call it like, if you don't want to give a space, you can also omit that. That's also fine. So these are how the this is how the concatenation works. It would concatenate this string and give you the output in LVC string. Now let's just go with the real example that we had. So if I want LVC string to contain the concatenated information, I'll just say concatenated string colon I want to print, and here I want to print the LV text, and here I want to give a space again. I can also print this. If I just say execute, you would be finding that I am getting the concatenated string, which is called sample text. And this is something which I have done not using a concatenate operator, but using a pipe operator. Okay. So this is just one operator that we are going to use. So I just introduce. So you would be aware of it when we are using it in the example. Now let's just talk of the example, or I can say the problem statement. To define the problem statement, let's just get some sort of PO data. So what we would be getting is, we would be getting some sort of PO data over here, and we would be printing it in my output. Okay. So for example, the PO data which I am getting over here would be okay. So if I want to get some sort of PO data, I might say uh, for example, EBLN I am willing to have, and I am willing to have some sort of A date, for example. For example, as we are going to work on some sort of conversion, let's just say I want some data which is performing some sort of date operation. So I can say, okay, let's just say LT datum, and I want some sort of 1000 rows, and I want to just print this. I want to just display it in a ALV. I'm not willing to print it right now, so I just remove this. Okay, and here we would be passing the table that we want to print. And here, I'll just say I would be getting a reference out of that. In the earlier session, we discussed how we can define the variable at runtime by using just a data keyword. And I would be displaying the ALU. If I just say execute right now, I would be getting the set of information maintained over here. Okay, so we do have different dates and the purchase document, which is specified. My purpose is very simple. All I want is, I want this table to get converted in a target table. Okay, and that target table should have, okay, so ultimately I do have PO data as my input. I want the output which is same as what we are providing as an input, other than the date which we do have currently in YYYY MMDD should be converted to something called, let's just say, wherever it is DD, I want to add like, let's just say if it is 1, I can say first. If it is 11, I can say 11th. It is 21st, like 22nd, 23rd, likewise. So either it should be ST, ND, TH, likewise. And I also want the information of a month. So if it's what is the month, I want to print it like Jan, Feb, March, likewise. And I also want the year to be printed. Okay. So in short, let's just say I do have a date of today, say 2022 YYYY MMDD. Then it should be printed like 30th of March 2022. This is how it should get printed. Just say I want to define some sort of format for my output. Something I'll be calling a destination variable. I'll just say EBLN, which would be my same input parameter. I don't want to manipulate it. I just want a output date over here. Okay, and I can call it as a let's just say care 30, let's just say, because we are going to add certain additional information to it. As we do have output information, let's just also call this some sort of input date, so it would become more easy for us to manipulate. I'll just define a table out of that. So I'll just say LT dest, and it would be a type standard table of TY/USD. Now my target is I want to iterate on this source information which I do have, and I want to generate a target information. And what would be my source? My source would be LT datum. And what would be my target? My target would be nothing but my destination variable. So I'll just say LT dest because that is a table which I want to fill. And I want to fill this table. It means which keyword I will be using? I will be using the value keyword. Now, I have a source. I want to iterate on that. I want to fill the target. How I can iterate on my source table? I can just say for ls datum. This is something I am defining as a work area for this. And I want to define a, so I want to iterate on a table. Then I'll just fill the value of the columns which are there in LT dest. So what are the columns? So EBLN is there and output date is there. So EBLN is something I don't want to manipulate, let's just say. So I'll just say EBLN equal to ls datum dash EBLN. Output date I want to fill. So I'll just say, okay, this output date is something I want to fill. And I want to fill it with the date which is formatted in a manner which I just stated. Okay. So to achieve this, we would be using our weapons. So if I want to convert a date like this, we have to ensure first that the date we are passing over here is a valid one, right? So we would be first specifying a condition which says when my particular day which I am getting. So let's just say if I am getting a particular date, whether it's a valid or not. So if someone types, let's just say 32nd of Jan, which is not possible. Say I want to put a condition that at least the date they are passing is a valid one. Now, if I want to validate the date, or I can say the day out of that, I should be able to retrieve that. And in each of this iteration, I might end up getting a different day. Okay, so I have to retrieve those individual day as well. So what we can use over here, we can define some sort of intermediate variable declaration and have in a value keyword, we can define those intermediate variables using a let keyword. So I'll just say let, okay, and here I'll just say in, and here I would be defining my day. So I would be getting a day out of it. And how I'll be retrieving the day? So for this particular source table, I am getting a work area, and that work area has a field called input date, and that input date is in a format of YYYYMMDD. So starting from its character number 6 to its additional 2 more characters, I would be getting the day which I am looking for. Okay. Next, I am also interested in the month. So here I'll just say ls datum. I want a month as well because individual components are the one on which we are actually going to work. I'll just say LV year, ls datum, and here I'll just say input date, and I would be starting with character 0 and going with till 4 characters. Now, I do have a day, a month, and a year over here. What I want is, I want to validate whether the day I am passing is a valid one or not. So ideally it should be maximum 31. It should not go beyond that. So I'll just say if my LV day is less than or equal to 31. Okay, then I want to perform something. Okay, else what I'll be doing is, so then I can say XYZ. Else all I want to say is invalid date. Okay, so I am here till XYZ. Now what I want is, I want to go by component, saying DD I want, then I want to append this particular additional, we can say, suffix, the date, characters, the year, and I want all of this to be concatenated. Okay. So what I'll be using over here, I would be using this concatenation operator. So let's just remove this dummy information that we have added. Here we would be just saying concatenation operator. So we are at our first step. Next thing I want to print over here is a date, which I do have in my LV day now, but it is a variable. It's not a constant. So I'll just provide it in a curly bracket, say LV day. Afterwards, what I want a ST, ND, TH, everything, depending on what is the day. Do I need a space? No, I don't. So I won't be providing a space. Instead, I want that I should be able to get certain information dynamically. Okay, so it means I have to provide some sort of conditions. So I'll again write a curly bracket over here. Here I'll just say a condition, and as a part of a condition. So again, if you see, I do have a value, then I have a for. Inside that I have a condition, I have defined a variable. Then again here I need a condition, so I would also be able to specify that. So inside the curly bracket, I am specifying one more condition, which says when I would need a set of a day after which I would be providing different suffix. So let's just go with a ST. So I can say if it's a first or 21st or 31st, then I'll just say, okay, it's a first. For let's just say something which is ending with 2, I can say, okay, it's the second or 22nd. Something which is, let's just ending with 3, call 3, or 23, I can say third or 23rd. Other than that, I would go with a TH, saying, okay, 14th, 15th, likewise. So I'll just say, if LV day, which I am getting over here, if it is equal to 01, or LV day I am getting over here is my 21, or the LV day which I am getting over here is equal to my 31, then you can say ST is something that you can add as a suffix. If it is 02, or then I would be adding a ND after that. When I do have a, let's just say third, or '23, then I can say it's a RD, and else I would like to mention it as a TH. Okay, so I do have my first component ready. I do have a date and I do have a suffix for that. Next thing I want is a space. It's very simple. Just add a space out over here. Done. Next thing I want is a month converted into an English character based on the 2 characters I do have over here. So it just, let's just say it is 03, then it should be March, and likewise. So again, what I'll need? I will need a condition. So I'll just go over here and just say condition when my LV month over here, if it is equal to 01, then I can say it is Jan 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I can say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Sumit,
Sir,
give me.
Yeah, please.
Sumit, we are hard coding it, right? So there are function modules. So can't we directly call function modules over here with respect to that?
Yeah, you
The,
can call the function module, but all I want to elaborate over here is that how this particular sort of
but,
combination you can
okay,
use in a combination. Okay, so
okay,
we do have a function module. You can use that. That's not an issue. But
okay,
that's not our purpose over here.
okay, yeah.
Sumit, while
Yeah, please.
concatenating, if
Uh-huh.
we need two space, then we have to give two space, right? In between two
Yeah,
variables.
exactly. You can give any
Okay.
space, or if you want to, let's just say you don't need space, you need a dash, then you can also pass a dash, whatever you like.
Okay.
And afterwards, I want just a year to be printed. I just do the syntax check. I think I am through. So if I just copy the name of the table, paste it over here, and activate this. Upon execution, if you see, I do have my date converted, which says 17th of August, 22nd of November, 2nd of Feb, likewise. So the main purpose over here is to see that we can iterate on a source table. While assigning value to any sort of destination column, we can assign a condition operator at the either beginning of loop or somewhere inside the condition. We can define the local variables. Those local variable, if they are outside of the loop, would contain the individual value, either a constant or derived from some sort of method. If it's per iteration, then you can also derive the value per iteration over here, like we derived. Inside the when condition, you can also do the same set of operation that we are performing over here. Any of this operation can be performed inside a variable. That's also very much possible. So that is our main purpose over here. And this is what this example is actually depicting. I hope it is clear to everyone.
Sumit, like where you give the space, there is no need of, I mean, you said you can give dash also. The dash
Mhm.
should be within the flower bucket or just instead of space, only dash we have to provide.
So ultimately, if I provide a dash or anything, that it would be a constant. So if I just dash over here, then
Mm,
it would be outside of the bracket. So if you see this particular bracket is
mm,
starting over here, it is ending over
mm,
here.
mm. It will be in the middle.
Yeah. So outside of the bracket, anything you are specifying is a constant.
Okay.
Now, next thing we would be interested more over here is, let's just say
And one
we
more
have,
thing,
yeah,
this
please.
variable is there, right? LB data that we collect the date, month, and year. That local
Mm-hmm.
variable, we have to use local variable only. Instead, we can't use directly the ls underscore datum that date directly instead of LB data. At line number 42. When uh,
Yeah, here you can
uh,
use definitely if you want to use like ls datum
oh, yeah, yeah.
dash like this, you can use. But the thing is, at every place where you are using the date, you have to
Yeah.
do go by making the component reusable, and we are avoiding the re-execution of the same operation.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Now, next thing we are willing to have over here is mm, let's just say I do have a EBLN over here. Mm, Now, for example, I want to add some more dummy information to it. So for example, LT datum over here. And here I want to pass EBLN equal to 123. And let's just say input data I'm willing to pass over here is, let's just say, upon execution, what we can see over here is we are getting the information which is in a right formatted shape. If I just go back, I know EBLN is a 10 character variable, so I would be saying okay 000, so 3 4 5 6 7. If I just say execute, if I just go at the end, I would still be getting the date which is in a particular format, which is an output format. How it is happening? So we all know that we are assigning the value to LTDEST. This LTDEST has a data type called EKKO EBLN, and this EBLN has a conversion routine assigned to it called alpha. So this alpha conversion routine is executed every time we are presenting the information to the output SAP GUI. Okay. But each time this won't help. So ultimately, whenever we are working on SAP GUI, then definitely this conversion is going to happen. It would show the converted value to the user. But expect you are not working on the normal SAP GUI. You are going one more step beyond. You are going with a, let's just say, some sort of gateway based or data service, presenting the set of information to the world outside of your SAP GUI. You are presenting some sort of information to the browser base. At that particular point on time, there is entity data model based data type that would come into picture, EDM data types. There it would be treated as a char 10. And here, if you are kind of executing, you would be getting that the conversion won't happen. You would be getting values preceded with 0. Now this preceding 0 does not make any sense to the user because they are not interested in that. Okay, it's just to have a good long we can say number chain, or we can say possible of possibility to store more number of number. We have provided it in a 10 characters, but that is not what the user is willing to have. So to remove those zeros, we used to have some sort of conversion routine called alpha that we just seen. Earlier, it used to be a function module based conversion routine. Now it has been converted to a conversion routine of a keyword base. All you have to do is you have to just pass the pipe parameter both the side. As this is a variable, you have to provide it in a curly bracket. In the curly bracket, you have to specify the conversion routine in a very short form. And there are very few of those conversion routine which are yet converted to a keyword base, not all of them. Okay. So alpha is one of them. So if I want to convert a value from my input to output, I can say I would be going with alpha, which is a conversion routine, equal to, I'll just say what sort of data I want to convert it to. So I'll just say I want to convert it to out. So ultimately, I'm executing output alpha conversion routine. And at the moment, I'll just say activate and execute. Alpha out conversion routine would get executed, and I would be getting the value converted in an output format. Likewise, we do have a material Maintner conversion routine, project specific everything, but we don't have it currently in line. So there are very few of those conversion routine which are defined as an internal as a keyword base. If I just press F1 over here, here you would be finding the conversion, or we can say embedded expression. Those you can find over here. So here you would be finding the alpha that we learned. We do have a date as well. We do have a time as well. In case if you want to provide any sort of style or some sort of let's just say uppercase, lowercase kind of thing, decimal places, then you can also do that. I'll just say close this for now. Let's just go one more step back. Here I want one more thing to be presented. So I'll just say let's just define the type that we are having over here. I'll just say begin of what we are using, UI datum. So this time, this particular type I am willing to have define. I want a time variable as well, which is not part of the EKKO table. So I am just defining the table by myself. I'll just remove the @data because the table I have already declared. I'll just do the syntax check and it's okay. I want a time as well. So I'll just say, okay, IP time, where I am just providing a time as an input. And I just say, okay, time local as a data type I'm specifying. And in the output, I also want some sort of time to be as a part of my output. And I'll just specify as a character. I want, let's just say IP time equal to the value I would like to have over here is, for example, if I just say activate this, definitely I have not passed the time in my output, so it would be blank. Let's just pass that as well. I'll just say output time, and I'll just pass, let's just say ls datum dash input time. So here I am getting HHMMSS, which is 64214. I think it is getting the, yeah, somewhere time zone, which is mentioned over here at the system configuration level. I want to convert this time into some sort of time which is understandable by user. So I want to convert this time into a user format. So I'll just say here, I want to say my time equal to a user format. So it would convert my time into a user format. There, if you see, all the date and times are now converted into a user format. If I also want the date also to be converted into a user format, I can say output, let's just say date in a user format. Let's just say again a cat 30. And here I'll just say output date, a user format. Here I'll just specify input date, and date I want to convert it to user format. So here I do have a date which is converted to a user format for me, because that is what is specified in my user profile parameter. So it means we do have this sort of conversion routines as well. While converting the date,
In
Sorry.
case if we want instead of dot, if we want comma in that, how can we do it in
So
time? Date
so
in date.
so so in short of in form of a date, if you see, we do have a date conversion routine which says you want a date over here. You have few options. If you just say row, then whatever format, standard date format is there, you would be getting that. If you are getting passing ISO, then it would be passed as a YYYY If you are getting the user, then as per user's profile parameter, you can get that. Otherwise, you can also set the environment variable by setting the country, so country specific format would be picked. In case you want a comma somewhere, then you have to check whether it is there in the profile parameter or not. So if I just say user profile, user data, then in the defaults, you would be finding some sort of format. So in the date format, we have multiple options. So you can choose any of these options which you can
Last
opt
one,
for.
last option.
Yeah, so
Last
you can,
option or second option if we want like that. Is
so
it possible in that?
you can just say the user. So ultimately, you have to sign off and then sign in, because these variables are loaded into the system very first time you log in into. So if you see, I am getting some sort of operation. These are Israel option. Maybe the format that you want over here would be something else. It won't be the last but one, because that is Israel Islamic time. For you, it should be something like this, Gregorian calendar, I guess. This is what it should be, and then it can give you the right set of information. It is all kind of a basis setting, a user profile setting that can help you out. So if you see, I do have a date formatted in the format I'm looking for. It's possible, but depending on whether that is part of the user profile parameter or not. If it is there,
Okay.
you would be able to get.
Okay.
So there is something we had as a part of that example that would ultimately help you. Going forward, the topics which are there, of course, we are going to cover it in this session as well, because that is part of our agenda. So let's just kickstart with the actual topics, because due to connectivity issue, we were not able to we can say cover few things yesterday. So that is something we can cover today. Now let's just start with the actual topic for today's session. Now, I'll just go over here and just say aligning with Java. Why it is called aligning with Java? Okay, now over here, you can say, if I want to align something with Java keyword, what do I mean? So when it comes to an ABAP and when it comes to a Java language, which we used to learn at our college days, okay, there are few similarities, few differences which come into picture. So definitely both the system can connect to the database using RDBMS connectivity. So there would be some sort of JDBC call that would happen and everything is fine. But whenever it comes to a application server logic, there are certain similarities, certain differences. For example, in an ABAP, we do have a concept of a internal table, whereas in a Java, we do have a concept of an array, right? Internal table is also one kind of array. So it's an object array that is there also in Java. Internal tables index always start with 1, In array, syntax always start with index always start with 0. Okay. When we are saying we want to perform some sort of operation on a variable, for example, if I do have a variable called I and I want to increment it by 1, I would say, okay, I equal to I plus 1. In Java, if I want to do that, I do have certain operator called shorthand operator, which just say I equal to plus, sorry, I plus equal to 1. Okay. So this is something called shorthand operator. If the variable on the left hand side and the right hand side are similar, then all we have to do is we have to perform the operation on the variable. At the same time, assignment can also be done. So it would perform a plus operation, increment it by 1 that is specified on the right hand side, and also do the assignment as well, as we do have a equal to as well. That is something which now ABAP is also getting itself versatile into, and we can also get that particular operation done at ABAP level as well. If we talk about the loops, okay, in ABAP, most of the loops, of course, we do have also certain loop which iterate on certain conditions, but mostly the loops that we do have into ABAP iterate on an internal table. Whereas whenever I am talking of the loops in Java, it iterate on an index. You might have seen that in college days, or sometime, let's just say during a real experience these days as well, you might have seen, if I'm writing a loop in Java or JavaScript, I might have seen, I might write, okay, for I equal to 0, I is less than 10, sorry, I plus plus. So ultimately, in Java, we specify the loop, then initialization, then the terminating condition, and then we can say increment or decrement. Is everything is possible. Okay. And same way, ABAP is also making itself versatile and giving us an option so we can iterate on our loop also based on this sort of indexes. Okay. Other than that, let's just say when it comes to certain translations as well, we do have English keyword based translation. Wherever Java has a shorthand translations which says, if I have a string A which is containing, let's just say, XYZ, and if I want to convert it to lowercase, then all I can say is A dot upper, we can say a lowercase, for example. This sort of syntax you might have seen into Java as well. And the more or less same kind of syntax are also coming into ABAP. So many things are now aligning with that of the Java. That is something how ABAP is making itself compatible, or we can say convertible with that of the Java. So the syntax that a person is knowing in one language can also be utilized in another. More or less, there would be very minor differences. If I start with a simple example, if I do have a set of data, if I start with set of data, and here I want to figure out something. So let's just say, just a moment, just a moment. Okay, so let's just say I want to figure out the index, saying, oh, okay, if my if I want to get some sort of count, saying get me all the get me the count of all the records where the company code is 1710. So I'll just say loop at LTEKKO into data LSEKKO, and here I'll just say LV count equal to LV count plus 1, and here I might say let's just say if my LSEKKO dash BUKRS equal to 1710. This is something I might say. So what we are doing over here is we are evaluating a condition, and afterwards we are incrementing an operator. While using incremental operator, we are saying to the system that increment the count. So old value we are providing, and we are asking the system to increment it by 1. Instead, if I just want to rewrite this, I might say as the variable on left hand side and the right hand side are similar, I would just omit this variable over here and switch the position of these two variable, and I'll just say plus equal to 1. Okay, and if I just say write LV count and execute, you would be getting that I do have 4020 records which are having the information 4020 record which are having the information specified where BUKR is equal to 1710. So we are no longer going by the old syntax. We are using a shorthand operator. It's not that only for plus, like Java does support that for addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. We can also have that. For example, I want to have LV tab x equal to I want to have LV tab x, let's just say multiply equal to 2. So it would multiply the values. Sorry, it should be LV count, not tab x. It would multiply the value by 2. If I want to divide it by 2, I again want to, let's just say, subtract the value by subtract the value by, let's just say, 5, then it is also possible. So all I can say is that earlier it was 4020, then we multiplied it by 2, so it became 8040. We divided it by 10, it becomes 804, and then we subtracted it by 5, so it becomes 799. So the operation that we used to perform on the same variable with using this syntax has now been changed to a very short syntax, and that is why these are called a shorthand operators. And it is very much aligned to that of the Java, because in Java also we perform this sort of operation. In Java, we do have one more operation, which I think it's not possible. So in Java, let's just say if I want to say A raised to B, A raised B. For example, if I want to say 2 raised to 10, then it is, I guess, possible. In Java, you might say, okay, LV count, then you might say multiply equal to some sort of 10 or something. That sort of thing is possible. But this multiply says A raised to B. It is something which is still not available into ABAP. But normal addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, all this sort of operation you can have by using a shorthand operator. Okay, that is very much possible. As we are talking to align our ABAP with that of the Java, let's just also think of some few more things which are also possible in Java and how we can perform that into ABAP. Let's just think of a translation operators. For example, I do have a string called, let's just say, LV sample string. Here I do have, let's just say, a sample simple string mentioned like this. Okay. And if I want to translate, this string into something, I can say in normal ABAP, I used to say translate my LV sample string, and to whatever case I want to perform it to, I can say, okay, to lowercase or to uppercase, I can just do that. Very much possible. The drawback, or the drawback would be a bit of negative term. Let's just say the impact, or we can say the behavior of translate keyword is such that translate keyword, I can say, as the translation of original variable itself. Correct. So once I perform translate on this, my original variable would be translated into something. If let's just say I'm adding this particular translation in between, then afterwards, if I do have 10 more lines written as a part of my code, then that would also get the variable which is converted to that particular case, uppercase or lowercase. First, secondly, this is a English keyword based translation, and due to that, it does not have a syntax of LHS equal to RHS. Due to which the issue would be if you want to do some sort of comparison as well. Okay, so let's just say I want to compare that my particular string which I am having over here, does it contain sample? Now I don't know whether the sample is written into uppercase or lowercase or something. So if I want to compare that my translate to upper string, so I am just converting it to uppercase before doing any sort of conversion, saying if my this string contains string sample, then this would be invalid because I can't use English character based keyword in a comparison, because inline operation of such an English based keyword is not possible. For that, we do have a Java kind of syntax which gives us a output as well, and it store it temporarily. So for example, if I want to convert it to uppercase, I can directly say theta LV upper, then I would be using 2 underscore upper, and here I will be passing my actual string which I want to convert to. So it would give me the string which is converted into upper, but my original string is still untouched. It is not altered. If I want to say lower, then I can also say to lower like this. And still my original string won't be touched. If I want to perform an operation that we were talking of, saying I want to say if my to upper of LV sample string is containing a string called sample, this is something which is also very much possible. This is also syntactically correct. It would perform the translation, at the same time also give you a liberty of comparing it to any sort of operation you want to perform, and it would give you the final output and won't also store it anywhere. So this inline comparison evaluation of the condition is also possible when it comes to a inline translation keywords, which is not something which you would be able to do when you are going with a old translate keywords usage. Okay, so that is something that won't help you over there, whereas the new syntax can help you for that. So I hope it makes sense. Are you all clear with the shorthand and the translation operator? Okay, let's just go with a
Yes.
okay, perfect, thank you. Now let's just go one more step forward. Few more things that we mentioned when it comes to a array in Java is internal table. Definitely we know. Shorthand operator, translation things we are clear about. Now let's just come to very important, or we can say very big difference over here which we have in ABAP and Java, called a looping part. So when I say a looping part, in ABAP, we do have all the particular operation that we are performing on a loop. Okay. Mainly they are rotated around, they all are iterating around something called I can say normal internal table. But when it comes to your Java, it is mainly iterating around the index. So in ABAP, what we use a loop like? We use loop like loop at. And in Java, we write a loop as if it's a for init and then term condition and the incremental and decremental. Terminating condition, and I can say increment or decrement operator. You have two such loops introduced now, but from my personal experience, let me also tell you, the most used loop is the one that we already covered. Okay, the for work area in table is the something that you would be find that it is being used the most frequently. Those loops are being used compared to the one that we are going to cover right now. But as it is already introduced as a part of new ABAP syntaxes, let's just also have the knowledge on the same. So sometime in future, if we need that, we can also use those. So here we have a loop which is coming in a form of a something called for, until, and while. So the loop we have over here are in two flavors. First loop that we are calling is for and while, and another loop that we are talking about is called for and until. Let's just talk of a very first thing. Let's just say for and while loop. Let's just talk about that. So for example, I want to have a destination table which I want to fill. So let's just generate a type of that. I can say TYPO. PO number, type EKKO, EBLN. Company code. So let's just say I do have a table of like this, and I want to fill this table from my source table, and that source table is nothing but my LTEKKO over here. What I'll do, I'll iterate on my source table, fill my target table. Very simple thing. But this time we would be iterating in a different manner. So I'll just say LTPO data equal to, definitely we would be going by a value syntax. Then we want to go by a Java kind of syntax. So I want that I would be writing a for, definitely bracket and something that is not important. All that is important is this three component. So I want a initialization variable. For example, I am saying over here x equal to 1. I want a terminating condition. So I'll just say for x equal to 1, while my x is less than num, or I can say equal to, because it is ABAP. So in ABAP, index start with 1. In Java, it start with 0. So we can say less than. Here it start with 1. So we are saying start iterating on a table starting from x equal to 1, while my x is not reaching to total number of lines that LTEKKO is having. So we are saying for x equal to 1, while x is less than or equal to total number of lines LTEKKO is having, you can iterate on the loop. Inside the bracket, we would be saying we want to fill a loop. So we do have an initialization condition, we do have a terminating condition. How about the increment and decrement operator? For that, we have a keyword called then. Okay, it is called then keyword. This then is being used for specifying the incremental or decremental, but the position is bit shifted. So here I can say x equal to 1, while this increment or decrement that you want to specify, you have to specify somewhere in between. So for x equal to 1, after one iteration, what would be the new value that you would be specifying? X equal to 1. Then after next iteration, x should be incremented to x plus 1, while the x is not reaching to the total number of lines of EKKO. That's what we are trying to say over here. Okay. If I want to fill the information of the left hand side, I'll just say, okay, PO number. How I can get the information of a LTEKKO over here? I'll just say LTEKKO. I want the index which is of x, and here I am interested in a EBLN company code. I'll just say, and I also want the company code from BUKRS. Given type over here. But so after having this sort of information, we can expect that my LTPO data would be filled with the value. Those are over here. One more thing, this particular operator that we specified over here. This is one way of specifying this. Okay, I can say one way. Another way is this then operator you can see over here is optional. Okay. Here, the initialization and terminating condition are mandatory. If you don't specify x equal to x plus 1 over here, then also it is fine. By default, it would be initialization of the variable plus 1 after each iteration. That is how it would behave. If you want x equal to x plus 10, then you have to specify it explicitly that x equal to x plus 10 always jump to the 10th record in each iteration. That is something that you have to specify. But if you don't need that, then it's very optional. You would get a liberty from that. The very first time the value of x exceed the value of total number of line, you would be able to jump out of the loop and LTPO data would be filled. So LTPO data is now containing 6085 records, and LTEKKO was also containing the same number of records. The value of x over here is 6086, and hence we are out of the loop. We have not specified any sort of increment decrement because we don't want to overrule. X is by default x plus 1. If I want to specify x equal to x plus 10, I can do that. And here what you will be getting is the LTPO data is containing 609 records only, whereas LTEKKO was containing somewhere around 6085. So we are jumping each 10th record during each iteration, and that is why we are getting limited amount of record. So we are following the path which Java has introduced, and we are following based on the initialization, terminating condition, and increment decrement operator. But let me tell you upfront, the loop that you would be using most frequently into ABAP would still be rotating around the internal table, and that is why you would still prefer for work area in table. Okay, because I have seen that from practical examples that people prefer that, because all we want to do over here is also iterate around an internal table. Then why don't go with a straightforward thing and not rotate around the index? Because in a developer's life, three things are something which ultimately you cannot get rid of. Okay, a kind of a we can say index variables, the flags, and the variable declarations, the name of the variable declaration. These three things are there that you have to keep on thinking how this flag is altering, what should I give a name to my variable and everything. Okay, so let's just try to make keep things simple till the time it is. So as we do have alternative, people still use the old way of following. Over here now, let's just go with for and until. If I want that I want to go by for and until, let's just try to say I again want to fill LTPO data. Now I hope you know the behavior of value keyword. It would clear my internal table. So here for this example, whatever I'll be using, it would first clear out my original table that was there. So I am least worried. Okay, should I clear the internal table or not? It would by default clear it out. Okay. Now all I want to do is I want to iterate on my loop again. This time let's just take an index as a y. Here I'll be using a keyword until. Okay. So like while is a keyword which goes with a positive approach. By means of positive approach, it means the condition, or I can say the loop would iterate till the time is condition is true. So when I say 1, when 1 is less than or equal to 6,000, yeah, it is, then it would iterate on loop. The very first time I am getting a index which is exceeding this condition and this condition is turning out into false. So let's just say 6,086 is less than 6,085. No, it is not. So this loop would ultimately end and we would break out of the loop. Okay. So that is a positive approach. Until works on a negative approach. It would iterate on the loop till the time the condition is false. The very first time your condition turns out into a true, it would break out of the loop. I'll just say if y equal to 1 until your y is greater than the number of lines of LTEKKO. So here I am saying my y is 1. Okay. If whether my y 1 which is greater than 6,000. So I can say no, it is a false condition because 1 is not greater than 6,000. Okay. So what we would be getting over here is a negative condition. And as it is, this condition is false, it would iterate on the loop. The very first time I am getting that this particular record 6,001, whether it is greater than 6,000, it'll say true. Yeah, it is true. And if it is true, then this iteration of the loop would break. Okay. So ultimately, I would be able to fill the value based on the negative conditions. So here I'll just say y. And the rule is same also over here. Okay. If you want to specify a increment or decrement operator, you have to specify y equal to y plus 5 something. You can keep on assigning that as well. Just forget the dot here. So let's just do that. I'll just say execute now. So here my LTPO data over here is containing 6,609 records. I'm iterating after 5 and 5. Here my X value was 6,091. So it was greater than, so it just broke out of the loop. Currently value of my Y is 0 because it is not initialized. If I just say F6 over here, it's turning out to be 6,086. So loop is having a true condition and that's why it broke out and it has around 1,217 records because we are jumping each 5 iteration during a single rotation. Okay. So that is how the for until and then for until while. So I can say for while and for until loop works. This is a way of this is a working mechanism of this loop, which is rotating around the index. Is it clear to everyone? And yeah, it's also to not to forget this way of iterating is changing. But the operation that we can perform within this particular bracket does not alter. Okay. You can have a method calling, you can have a separate variable assignment, you can perform any damn operation, the condition operators and everything that we used to perform in the earlier value and for loop that we tried performing in the earlier session, same are also possible when it comes to index based looping. Just the way of looping on a table is altering, nothing else.
Sumit, I have wondered.
Yes.
Actually, you have given means x plus 10, y plus 5, right? Can we
Mhm.
do x minus 10 like that? Minus 10,
Yeah,
y
you
minus.
can. You can, but ultimately there won't be any meaning then. So if I just
Means,
say it would,
for example, where means from 0 to we are going to top. In case if we want to loop top to below 0 means how can we do that?
you can say x equal to total number of lines. Then you can say x equal to x minus 1. Okay, and you can iterate on till the time x is greater than or equal to 1. So
Okay.
currently the value of x would be, let's just say 6,000. You are reducing on that. So you are starting from the very last index and you are iterating on the table till the time you are not reaching to very first. So you are kind of inverting, or we can say taking a reverse of your internal table. That is something which is possible. For that, you have to start from the bottom and go till the top. Right? Okay. So this is how you can also do that. It's very much possible. The initialization does not always needs to start with one. It's up to you how you want to rotate. Maybe you remember in college days, what we used to do is we used to create some sort of patterns, right? We used to do some sort of patterns saying, okay, first I want let's just say, first you want only one star, then you want star and star, then you want a star, star and star. And it can also be done the other way around. You can also have star, 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 then you can also say this star. Any sort of pattern you can generate using a loop. That's the same behavior. And that is why this was our basics, because we know we can iterate on either of the side. Okay, it's very much possible. Okay, perfect. Now, next thing we are interested over here
Hello.
is, yeah, please.
Praveen.
Yeah, Praveen.
So with the code what we have discussed now, this is but this type of code is not extensively used, right?
Yeah,
What?
this is not, that was the first line which I spoke.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yes, yes. You have told.
so my purpose of specifying this is, first, this is part of new ABAP syntaxes, so we should be
Yeah.
aware in any of the
Yeah.
scenario if we require to use this. Secondly,
Okay.
our ABAP code is now aligning with that of the Java. So if you
Java,
are
yeah.
also learning the certain cloud technologies, okay, in cloud
Yeah.
technologies, you would see that ABAP is also coming into picture via RAP, but before RAP, there is something called CAP technology, cloud application
Yes.
programming. It
Java.
works on
Yeah.
it works on Node.js, Java, and everything. And there you would
Okay.
be using this. So if you are having the basics of CDS that you would be learning, and after learning the CDS, if you are also jumping onto that, you should be knowing, okay, this kind of trans ABAP code I can use, and that would also be very much aligned with what you have already learned. That's why
Yes.
it's good to learn. Okay.
Okay.
Next thing we would be seeing over here is one more operator called, let's just say, reduce operator. So for example, reduce operator. So let's just learn a reduce operator. So reduce is the keyword. As the term suggests, it is used to reduce the data and get some sort of conclusion out of that. Okay. So reduce is the keyword that is used to iterate on a set of data and get some sort of conclusion out of that. I hope you remember in earlier time, we used to have a statement called collect. The purpose of collect was also a bit on the similar line. We were having, let's just say, 1,000 record, and we want to group the data based on let's just say some sort of company code, and per company code we want to accumulate all the gross amount of the purchase orders and something. Then that is something we were achieving. So ultimately we were reducing from 1,000 number of lines to a 50 odd lines. Okay, So we were also reducing over here. So we were collecting the set of data and we were deriving the analytical output, we were deriving the analyzed output that we were looking for. Same goes with reduce. Reduce would ultimately help you iterate on a particular set of data. It would have a 3-stage. Okay, it would have 3-stage. So for example, if I do have a LTEKKO over here, and I want to print the list of company code that I do have as a part of my internal table. Okay, then I should be able to iterate on each of this record, get the company code out of those and print those. Okay, so what we can do for that is we can use a reduce operator, which would help us do this operation in a single statement. For example, I want to get some sort of result. We would be again going with the syntax called LHS equal to RHS. I'll just say I want to reduce my set of data, which is input data called LTKKO, and I want a string out of that. Here, what we would be doing is we would be going through three components of a reduce. So the three components which a reduce contain is very first thing is called initialization. But the second one is called iteration. And third one is called a next stage. So if I do have a LTEKKO, which is containing, let's just say, one record, a second number of record, third number of record likewise. For the very first, I am saying, okay, I do have 1710 as a company code. For second one, I do have EW01 as my company code. For third one, I do have LF01 as my company code. I am not interested in all those n number of other columns which are there. I am only interested in this. So I would iterate on I would define an output string. I would define first an output string. This would become my part of my initialization. As a part of this output string, I would say I want, let's just say a company code, or I can say, I'll just say a sample output string, which is an empty string. Okay, here I would be defining a sample output string. After each of this output string, which is initialized, I would keep on iterating on my first record, and after iterating on one record, what would be my output? So I'll just say I would append 1710 afterwards. Then I'll again go with my second iteration. After second iteration, what would be my final output? So I'll just say I am also appending EW01 out here. After my third iteration, I would have LF01. So ultimately, we are iterating on a table and we are deriving a reduced form of output data. After going through 3 stages, initialization. So initialization stage is called init. So here we would be specifying init. As a part of init, I can say I would need an output string. So I would define a variable. So I'll just say, okay, text equal to, here I'll just say a PO company code. And here I would iterate on the records. So for iterating on the record, I can say for LSEKKO in LTEKKO. This is what I am iterating on. I would be going to the next stage each time. Okay, so next thing we want over here is the next stage of that. Okay. Next stage says after initializing, after one iteration of the table, what would be my next stage of output? What my output would be looking alike? So my next, after each iteration, my next step would be looking alike. My text would be promoted to, I can say, a text which was there earlier. Plus, additionally, I want my LSEKKO to also give me the company code that it is having. And after each iteration, I am appending that company code over here, and it would be resulted into an LS result. So ultimately, after each iteration, I am keep on appending my set of data, and I would get a LV string. So if I just say write LV result out over here, Okay, LSCKKO is declared where it is. So I hope you might have also observed the variable that we are using over here should be a fresh one. You can't use a already declared variable. If I just say execute, you would be getting, I am getting the list of company codes after each iteration. Definitely, I'm getting a duplicate data because I'm iterating on each of the company code, each of the line. If I want more analyzed information, saying only append the company code if it is not there as a part of the data, don't append it if it is already there. So I can again go in the text stage. Here I can put a condition saying my text does not contain a string, then only give me this particular set of data. Give me the original string that I was passing. I am not willing to concatenate anything. So 1710, if it is already there, it won't append anything. So here I would be able to get the unique set of company codes. The ultimate goal are over here is it's not that you would always be able to analyze a string output. If you want to say some sort of calculation you want to perform, saying after analyzing all this set of data, I want to get the list of mail IDs I do have as a part of that. I want to do some sort of aggregation of my gross amount which is there. Any sort of reduced form of output you want to get from the set of data that you are having as an input, you can get that. And that can be done using a reduce because it is reducing the set of tabular data and giving you a set of output data. So if you want to reduce a tabular data into a single variable, then you can go with a something called a reduce operator. That is a purpose. Does it make sense to everyone? Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So after this reduce operator where we were, okay, we will be going with something called a group by operation. So it's 12:01. Let's just have a quick 5 minutes break. Let's just gather back at 12:06 and we would be starting with group by. This is the most important and most frequently used keyword that you would be using in real time as well, because that has many advantages. So I'll just see you. It's 12:01 or 12:02. We'll see you at 12:07 then.
Sumit,
Yeah, Praveen. Yeah.
sir, is the reduce operator, reduce statement, is this extensively used? I have not seen it actually in my system.
So ultimately, in many of the organization now, people are kind of iterating on their loop, getting a set of data
Yeah.
and everything. But if you see, if there are any, if you go in some sort of organization which have now started to aggressively use the new technology during the code review, they don't pass any sort of such loop iteration if it is reducing and you have not go by the reduce operator. I have seen that my organization has already started using that, and you might also feel that in future you would be forced to use reduce because technically it is reducing the operations iterations for you. System would perform you for that the operate those iterations for you, and you would get a better performance. So reduce is
Okay,
vastly used.
Sumit,
Yeah, please.
Okay.
can you please once again explain that redis keyword means exactly a
So
little bit?
Yeah,
ultimately,
once we are back, can we discuss this again for 5 minutes? Yeah.
yeah,
Reduce.
definitely.
Okay.
And
So
one more, I have a lot of confusion in redis keyword and filter and group by.
reduce keyword is fine. Second, which one?
A filter and a group by. I have confusion in these three keywords. Actually, I watched many videos. I couldn't understand these three keywords.
So first of all, the group by is something that we would be using right after this break.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So I guess let's just gather back after the break and we will clear out all the confusion that we have.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Okay, so yes, are we all here? Okay. Okay. So let me just re-log in again. It seems like around 12 in the noon is some sort of devil time. Each time it just went into some sort of hibernate mode for 2 minutes and okay. Meanwhile, let's just utilize this time for some questions. So yes, few of you are having some queries. So let's just discuss till the time system is up. So what was the confusion with the group by keyword? Because that is something we haven't covered. So I'll be just clarifying those confusion afterwards. For the reduce, the purpose is to reduce the set of data and analyze and get the final set of output. So final set of output can be an object, can be a string, can be a set of number. If you want to aggregate something and if you want some sort of quantitative output as well, then of course you can also use the reduce for that. Filter is something which I'm also uh, hearing. I'm not sure whether you are referring to different keyword and I'm not clear for that. Okay, can you tell me what is the filter keyword you are also discussing sometime back?
Yeah, it is there in filter. You can search in SAP web filter in Google. You can find.
Yeah, so ultimately you are filtering the information and passing some sort of filter
Yes, yes,
options.
yes.
Mhm. I haven't got a chance to actually use that keyword, but I can try. So maybe I can just prepare an example and show it to you. That's not an issue. But I don't think we have covered that. We covered that filter keyword?
No, no, no. Not. I actually in YouTube I watched some videos.
Yeah, I can. So ultimately, a filter keyword, I have not kind of found the requirement to use that till date, but I can use that. I mean, if it's a keyword, then I should be usable. That's not a big thing. I'll just get back to that topic. Currently, system is behaving a bit. Just give me a minute. So on the reduce keyword for the very first, okay, the main purpose is to analyze any sort of tabular data, derive some sort of conclusion out of that based on our requirement. So for example, my requirement over here was to get the list of distinct company codes. So that's what I use the reduce for. I reduced, iterated on all the list, defined my initial stage of my output, how it would be looking alike. After each iteration, I'm defining how my output would look alike in the next stage. And after the very last iteration, I'm getting the set of output. That is the purpose why I use reduce for. Many a times you might also use that in the initial stage, you might define some sort of aggregated quantity as 0. And after each iteration, you want to aggregate those out. Then at that particular point in time, you would also use reduce. Many a time you might also find that some sort of object is there. And after each iteration, you want to call some sort of its method. And that method would ultimately doing something. And that method, you can call it a next stage, and afterward you would have a final form of an object being prepared. So here you can also have a next stage, which is an object. Okay, there can be n number of different output which a reduce can perform, or reduce can actually give you as an output. That is why we are using reduce. The purpose of group by is different, definitely. That is something we would be coming through, and this is something which these days also I have seen people using vastly. Say as the name suggests. Okay, why actually group by is being used? So the purpose of group by, as the name suggests, is for grouping the data. So I'll just say, okay, then we were having something already, right, with us. So if we want to group the data, then we were already having something. For example, I do have a set of data. I do have a set of PO data, and I want to group the data. I want to group the data based on, let's just say, multiple components. Let's just say I want to group the data based on my company code and document type. So what I might use for that, I might use, I might go by two mechanism. Okay, I till date, if I don't know group by, I would have two options. First option is a loop. We can say loop break statements, the at begin of, at end of, at new, at change of. These are the methods I might use. Okay, so this at, new, or change, or and, this everything which I might use has a prerequisite. What it is? The columns which I want to group the data upon occur at very beginning. At very beginning of my internal table. Otherwise, let's just say if I do have a structure which is saying EBL, and I do have, then I do have a BUKRS, then I do have BSART, and if I'm trying to group the data on this, it would group the data based on the first three columns, because the system would take into consideration all the columns which are on the left of the column that you are willing to group the data upon. Second option that you might have gone through is you might have stored the previous value in some sort of local variable, keep on comparing it during each of your iterations, and that might also have helped you grouping the data. But another alternative approach you might have took is you might have created some sort of temporary internal table and arrange the column in the form you want. Okay, and then you might have performed the grouping. So there are plenty of ways you might have done these things. But now SAP is coming up with another keyword, very important keyword and very helpful, called group by. It helps you grouping the data. Okay, so let's just say, let's just pick some sort of data. For example, I want to select some sort of EVLN. Let's just pick some sort of PO data over here, and let's just try to group based on that. So I do have a EVLN, BUKRS, BSART, BSTYP, year name, and A date. And here I want to iterate on this, and I want my data to be available in, for better understanding purpose, let's just take some sort of short text as well. So I'll just say inner join T001. I can say as T1, and on here I'll just say I want a BUKRS equal to T1 would also give me one short of BUKRS. T1 can give me the short text as well. So T1 would give me the BUTXT. If I just put a breakpoint somewhere over here, I would be able to visualize my data. Here I am having LTEKKO, which is containing 6084 records scattered everywhere. BUKRS is there, BSART is there, and if I just go down, I might say, okay, 3000 is somewhere. I am having NB and all the sort of different document type and everything I am having. I hope I have multiple document types. Yeah, we do have multiple document types as well. Okay, so we do have everything with us, but we don't have a grouping. Ultimately, my purpose is I want to iterate on this data, group the data, and I want to perform n number of operation on that. I can use it for n number of purpose, doesn't matter. Okay. For that, what I might do is I might iterate on my loop. I might say loop at my LTEKKO into data. I can say LSEKKO likewise. After iteration, we might try to get one bunch of company code document type based on which we want to group the data, and we might try to get the set of record which are relevant to that. But how many times I can expect this loop to iterate for that particular grouping? I can expect this loop might iterate for, let's just say, around total number of records, some 6,000 plus number of iteration I can expect it to iterate on. I'm again looping inside on the same table. Okay, then again the number of iteration would go into multiply. It would go into some sort of multiplication. What I can do instead is I can use one more keyword over here called group by. So I want complete the statement loop add into this and append one more keyword called group by. Here, after group by, here you have to specify the component onto which you want to group the data. So for example, I want to group my data based on a BSART. It would say it is preparing the group. So ultimately it is filtering your records and preparing a separate group out of that. And the input for that would always come from the work area that you are having over here. You can't pass some sort of other local variable. You should always pass the work area to provide as an input, because this group would ultimately also iterate on the set of data that you are having. So it would say group by BSART, where LSEKKO's BSART would be your matching component. BUKRS would be again LSEKKO dash BUKRS that you are having. Here I can say I want the reference of the group assigned into a reference called LR group reference. This is something I can say. The breakpoint somewhere over here, and I just say activate. You are looping on this data, getting the group reference, and if I just say execute this, you are over here in LTEKKO. You are getting your first group reference, LR group reference, which is giving you the group of NB and 1710. If I just say execute, you are getting a loop of ZPAR and 1710. Okay, likewise, you are getting the group. My okay question would be, how many records does it contain? So we do have certain session variables also, or I can say some loop system variables also available. I can say, so whatever information I pass inside this bracket would become the component of my group. Okay, so this object would contain all those properties. So I can say I want a size of the group, which is also termed as a group size. I want an index of each group, saying this is my first group, this is my second group, and likewise. So I do have a keyword called group index for that.
I just say activate and execute, you would be getting that in the first iteration, I am having NB1710, which is having total 3,816 records. And that is my first group. Second group, it's containing 11 records for this combination. So the question would be where these records are actually. I can't see that. I can just see the count. I can just show the statistics. I can't see the actual records. So where are these records, which I'm all the while talking about? Okay. So first we got the statistics of how many records this would be containing. I just go over here somewhere. Okay. Now what I'll be doing is I would be preparing some sort of presentable output format. So it would become more clear to us how we can present the data. Before that, let's just try to get the information in a format of a understandable. So ultimately, let's just try to derive some sort of format of the data, which would be easy to understand. So I would be looping on this group. How I can loop on a group? We know how to loop on an internal table. I can say loop add this into something, but how I can loop on a group? For that, what we can write is we can say loop at a group. So if you see, I do have a loop at group, and here I'll just specify the name of the particular group reference into data. And here I'll just say ls group line, any sort of work area you want to specify. Okay. And I would just say execute. And if you see, I'm in LTEKKO, I do have a group which is getting the data for NB1710. Here I'm iterating on this group, and ls group line is giving me the very first record for that particular group. Okay. And likewise, I can iterate on n number of records I want. Okay. That is so. Let's just go one more step deeper. Just try restarting this. And now let's just prepare some sort of understandable output. So I just want one more, let's just say table, which is in the same format of what we are having the full data, because I want all the data in my output. So I'll just say LTEKKO, some sort of, let's just say live. And here I'll just say LTEKKO. So I want a full table. So these are old way of iterating on that. I can iterate on this, and then I can say, okay, append the line of this into this. I can do that. Okay. Instead, if I want to go by a newer way of doing that, I can say LTEKKO like equal to, here I can say value hash. Here I am getting the group reference, which is only containing the record for the group which I am currently in the context of. So I can say for ls group line, and here I can say in. After in, you can say group. So you would be able to iterate on a group. Okay, one thing. Second, you have an option. You have two options. Either you can keep on assigning each of the columns, but as we do have the same structure, okay, as we do have the same structure for the input set of columns and the output set of columns, because LTEKKO and LTEKKO like are having the same structure, I can directly pass the work area. So if you directly pass the work area, all of its relevant column along with its mapping would be assigned. Okay. And if I just say now pretty print, that's it, activate, and just say execute. Here LTEKKO like you can see is containing 3816 record for 1710 and NB.
If you just go back over here and just say LR group reference, which we are having, you just say execute again. Second time it is containing 11 records which are from 1710 and ZPAR. Third time you would be getting 1710 and N. So whatever statistics, the 27 record you might be getting somewhere over here, that is a third group. The actual record you would be getting in this particular in group, and here you would be able to derive that set of output. So this is how you would also be able to derive the group data. Now you have the data, you can perform any number of operations, whatever you want to. Okay.
Smith, how can we perform at first means?
All you have to write is group by this. After writing the group by, you would be able to get the group reference. That reference you can use to retrieve the set of records, and that set of records once you have in your hand, you can perform any sort of operation you want to perform.
Hello.
Then restart, and let's just try to convert this set of output in some sort of formatable way. For that, especially for presentation, or we can say for just demonstration purposes, SAP has given some sort of demo output to results. Okay, so for that,
Sumit?
this is ultimately part of HANA. It is just for the demonstration purposes. We are using over here. It's a
Hello, Sumit.
some sort of demo output we will be using.
He's not listening to us.
Here
Not
I
able
will
to.
say variable.
We are not audible to
But
him,
now
I guess.
Can you ping?
1 second.
And it is containing a static method called new. So it would contain an instance of the ALV that we are looking for. Okay. And we would be dividing our input
You
into
can
a
raise
section.
hand, right?
Our section that we are mainly interested in is the group-based information. I can say begin a section called, let us say, grouping. So here we are mainly interested in grouping of the data. After the beginning of this particular section grouping, we would be able to pass the group set of data over here. So we would be saying this EKKO like we want to print. Here we would be printing the whole, right? And here we can also end this particular section. Let us also give some sort of header information, so we would be able to represent the information, set of information that we want easily. So we can say print section details. It would just say and here we will be providing some sort of header information. That header information we would be specifying the group key. So these are the group key we can consider. So we can say I want a group key and a particular group key.
Hello, Sumit.
It's a part of that group key.
You have number, Gaurav?
Group reference over here.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me check.
Yeah, can call him, huh?
Providing the UKRS, but let's just say yeah. After providing this, we would also be interested in providing some sort of more detail that we have already got.
I have Sandeep's number, not his. I don't have his contact.
No, I think he there.
Right, for example,
Click in WhatsApp group. Click in WhatsApp group.
Is there in WhatsApp?
Yeah. Yes, yes. Okay.
And we want one more set of information. We'll just say group index. What is the index of the group? let's just try to display. So for displaying, again, we do have a so here you I do have a NP1710 which is containing 3816. After first iteration, we tried printing that record, and we are having that record available as a part of us. After having this record printed, if I just go quickly by page down, it's almost more than 50% of the record. Here I do have a UB1710, which is containing again 1710 of UB, 1710. There is 1010 of NB, which is containing my third set of record. But this presenting is not something which is important to us. What we are mainly interested in is that how we can get the group of the data. All we have to do is you have to use the group by keyword, pass the data or the columns on which you want to group the information. Here you can use these two system keywords to analyze what is the size of the data, what is the size of the group, and what is the index of the group. And here you can derive the information of that grouped information. So you can visualize this particular loop won't iterate 6,000 times. Instead, it would only iterate on the number of distinct group that you are having. Total number of group that you are having, that many number of times this loop would iterate. Internally, it would just give you a group reference that you can use however you want. Is it clear to everyone? And I think all four of you have some sort of query, so you can speak, or yeah, go one by one.
Sumit,
Please. Yeah, go.
you able to hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
No. From last 10-15
No.
minutes, we are trying to speak. You were unable to hear, I guess. We were pinging you. We were pinging you on the chat.
Okay, sorry. So ultimately, first question. Okay, were you able to hear me?
No, we were able to hear you.
Okay, fine. That is good. Okay, and now okay, maybe we were not able. I was not able to hear you. Sorry for that. I'm not sure what. There was some sort of network issue, but the good thing is you have not missed any content. Now you can go ahead with all the questions that you are having. I would love to, I mean, answer you. Sorry.
I have understood the part of grouping where we, with respect to the key, we are fetching the data for that particular combination, what we said. With the reference data, we are getting into that LR underscore group underscore reference. And this from line number 44 to 49, na, you are segregating that data and you are displaying the data in the blocks. Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly. So this is just for a presentation purpose. In your real project, you won't be using this. This just because each time going into debugging and showing you data won't make a clear picture to you. So I just thought of like writing it like this.
Yeah. So maybe there might be scenarios where we might have to use this as well. If customer says that I want the data which is segregated.
Yeah, you can use this, but ultimately, if you see, this is a name of the output is also it's a CL demo output. So it is just for the name is itself for a demonstration purposes. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a demo output. So mostly people might not be using this for a production release object.
Yeah. Okay. I had one doubt. Okay. Can you just come?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have used over here, na? Where is it? Can you just come up? You have used somewhere in.
So what? Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you come down? We have used value and you have passed. Can you? It's down? I guess. Yeah. Over here, line number 51. Okay. So this is getting us a segregated data. Okay. If we want in that segregated data, if we want the earlier data as well, can we use base statement here?
Definitely, you can use base statement. So ultimately, if you want to, what you would be getting in that particular output is you for the first group you have the data. Here your first group data is getting cleared out and you are getting the second data. If you use base, all of those data would keep on appending up one after the another.
Okay. So with respect to validations, we can have, if for some validations, if you want to have, I wanted to know about this base, whether base can be put over here.
Okay, it's very much possible, but it's same as if you are just kind of grouping and then using base, it's same as that of the kind of shorting the data. So instead I might have, yeah, so of course I might not use that if I'm grouping the one.
Okay, okay.
Sumit, I have one doubt. Means using group by we can write at first, at end of at new like that, right? I want to write whenever it is first line item, I want to write some text, and at end of the means we have to do some total and subtotal and total. How to do that?
So ultimately for the first line, okay, if you want to do something, all you have to do is you have this particular set of data, you have the group data. Now the very first line would be your LT EKKO like index number 1. So you would have that as a part of this. I can say ls line equal to, you can directly have now whatever you want to perform, you can do that first. Secondly, if you want to do some sort of aggregation, then again, I hope you remember few minutes back we were discussing reduce. So you can use reduce over here. You have all the set of information. If you want to do some sort of aggregation or anything, go with the reduce. Try to iterate on the set of data, the set of group data that you are having. You would be able to aggregate all the stuff that you are willing to, and you would be having the final set of data with you.
Means we want to do aggregation based on that document type and the company code. How can we do? Means maybe we can get like block up means block up records. At the end of we need to under at new how we can do.
Okay. First of all, you are just trying to still visualize everything with a reference of at new at end of. But now you have the set of whole data. What you were earlier doing is you were kind of aggregating each and everything during each of the record, and you were kind of still in a hurry that okay, the record are and I'm at the last record or not. You want that particular phase or particular set of signal that you are at the last record. Here you are only having the record which you are interested in. So there are two ways. If you want to do some sort of aggregation as a classical ABAP, you can directly say, okay, loop on this particular data, do the aggregation you want. Other way would be you want some sort of aggregated data. Simply say reduce, and you want some sort of number as well. So you can say quantity or some sort of I can say MENGE, and you can directly say in it, you can say LV total quantity equal to 0, and here just loop on that particular data. I can say L, and here in next, try adding everything what you want. You would be having the total quantity aggregated. That is a newer way of doing that. If you have some sort of quantity field, you can aggregate it over there. Older way with a combination of newer if you want to go with. Earlier, what you were doing is you were having at begin of where your first record was starting. Now you have everything over here, right? And this particular set of data won't contain anything but the only group related data. All you can do is you can just say loop add this table into data. You want first record? You can just say, okay, if my site x is 1, and here you can say for each of the other record, you can directly say, okay, quantity plus equal to 1, anything. So you have the only group data available over here. So you can perform each and every of the each and every operation that you want to perform over here. Earlier, what used to happen is in this particular loop, you were getting the records even though they are not part of the group. So you should be alert. Okay, there is a new group which is starting, but here it is not the case. Here in this particular reference, you are only having the group relevant information, only having the data which is part of the group. So you can perform any number of operation on first record, last record, n number of record, whatever you like. Okay, you can do it via reduce. If you want to go by a newer way, if you want to go by older way, you have the separate group prepared with you. You can perform n number of operation which you want to perform. That's also very straightforward.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is Try preparing this example at your own. Okay, try preparing this example at your own. Try adding the stuff that you are willing to have. That on first line, I want to perform something. At end of all the records, I want to perform some sort of aggregations or whatever you like. And you would be able to derive the output. And if you are facing any issue, just bring that example in front of the audience. We would be happy to kind of look into it and help you out for that. Okay, that's not an issue. Try preparing the example at your own. You would be more clear. Just by seeing at the example, it won't be that clear if you're not trying that out. So just try that out. It would make more sense for you then. Okay. Okay, I can see Shiva and Praveen, you are raising your hand. So are you again speaking something which I'm not able to hear you, or hello?
No, it was earlier. When you were unable to hear us, at that time we had raised the hand.
Okay, fine. Okay, perfect. Now let's just go one more step forward over here. And let's just try to learn some sort of mesh operation. Let me just tell you upfront, this is the thing that ultimately you would find being used very less. So people are not using this thing very much when it comes to a normal ABAP. But its concept of association, which is part of the mesh, are being used very vastly when it comes to REST API, OData services, and CDS and everything. So that is why the concept of mesh is good to know, because that particular concept would ultimately is being used. That particular concept is actually ultimately being used in the architecture of other parameters. So I can say mesh operations. Okay, so what is a mesh? Okay, so as the name says, it's not a mesh. It's a very, I can say, other way around. Okay, mesh is not a mesh. Mesh is a kind of a clearing some sort of mesh that has already been done. Okay. So let's just say I do have two set of data. So let's just say I can have multiple information available at my system level, and just clear this out. Uh, okay, so let's just say I have multiple set of data available with me in my single program, in my single execution, and I want to create some sort of correlation between all of them. Okay, so let's just say I do have a purchase order header data, I do have a purchase order line item data, and all those information which are there, I want to establish some sort of relation between all of them. Then that can be achieved via mesh. So for example, let's just go via some sort of data declaration to understand what I am trying to say. For example, I do have a header level data called EKQ, and here I do have let's just say very small set of data we would be going with, just a company code and the purchase order number. Let's just say I do have a line item data as well called TYEKPO. And let's just say material number. Some sort of short text as well. Now, I want to create a deep table out of that. Okay, I want to create a deep structure which is containing the header data as well as line item data, both of them. So let me just try creating a table type for this. I can say type table of EKQ. And here I am saying by EKPO. Now I want to create one more structure which is combination of both of them. That EKKO1 purchase order header data and EKPO1 which is a purchase order line item data again. I can say begin of, and here I'll just say there is a mesh structure which I'm preparing. So I'll just say ty mesh. Here I want PO details, and the name of it would be, let's just say TEKKO, because it is containing the type of it would be TEKKO because it is containing multiple records of purchase order header and some sort of PO item detail as well. TEKPO. And here I am just closing this mesh operation. What I want is I want to establish some sort of relation between this PO detail and PO item. So by looking at just the detail of a header, I should be able to derive its line item information, or from the line item information, I should also be able to derive its header information. If I want to perform some sort of operation on a line item with reference to a header, or on a header with reference to a line item, then also I should be able to perform that. That is the main agenda why we need a mesh. Ideally, when we create a table type, we are not establishing any sort of relationship between both of them. All we specify is header type, its table type, and we just provide it as a part of a new type. And we usually just define a structure out of that, and that particular structure we would be using going forward. I can say, let's just say ty mesh. But if I want to create any sort of relation, I have to use a relation keyword for that, and that relation is called association. So association says header information are associated with that of the line item detail. That is what we are willing to say over here. That header detail, PO details, and line item detail, PO item, are correlated with each other, and the relating factor is EBLN. So based on the purchase order header number, EBLN number, these two set of information are correlating with each other. And that is why we are specifying at PO detail level that association is being created to my PO item. Okay. And it is related to my PO item, which is specified over here. So this association's name would be, the name of the association would be to PO item, and the name of, and where actually it would be linked to, it would be linked to item, the PO item, and the relating factor would be both EBLN of left hand side. Left hand side, it means EBLN, purchase order number of a header data, should be same as that of the purchase order information of a line item information. This should be similar. That is what we are kind of trying to convey over here. So when I am saying I am preparing a mesh at that particular point in time, the header information and the line item information are creating some sort of correlation with the help of association. So we would be giving name to an association, and how this correlation would work. So we are specifying an on condition like we specify it in a join. Same way we are specifying a correlation when it comes to an association. That is something that would help us. Definitely mesh operations are something that we would be using very lessly when it comes to a normal ABAP, but in a CDS, in a OData service and everywhere, association concept would be used very vastly. Okay, so if I just do a syntax check, expected, comma. Okay, why it is expecting comma? Because ideally, because the type which we are using over here does not have any keyword called association. So that's why it's expecting that after specifying type, you should be specifying a second component. But this is not a normal type that we are defining. We are defining a mesh. So we are saying begin of mesh, end of mesh over here. So there is a mesh component that we are defining. If I again do a syntax check, I would be saying I would be getting an error saying that type TEKQ does not meet the requirement of a mesh node type. Okay, for a node, so mesh ideally contains a component and these components are called a node. Okay, so for any node to work properly, it should be a shorted table. So if both of these records are shorted, then only they will be able to easily acquire the lock on each of them. So for example, my header data should be a shorted table. And the uniqueness should also be defined when I am saying a shorted table. So the data should be shorted and it should have a unique key. The unique key over here can be EBLN. Same way, I should also specify the line item table also to be a shorted one. And here I would be specifying some sort of key, but let's just specify non-unique key, that is also fine. EBLN. So this would generate a mesh structure. So a mesh structure is the one which is containing multiple set of information correlated with each other. And that correlation is being specified with the help of an association. Now, if I just go in a execution mode and just see how this particular structure would be looking like in a debugging mode. If I just say execute, here you would be getting ls mesh. This ls mesh is containing shorted table of PO detail, shorted table of PO item. If I go in PO detail, I am not having any trace of what is the relation, because that particular information you won't be able to derive from the table content, or we can say from a debugger view. Okay, that particular relation that we are willing to achieve over here can be achieved via some sort of operation that we are going to perform on that. So let's just go in that detail as well. Okay, for performing any sort of such operation, let's just try to fill some sort of data into this structure. So I would be fetching some sort of data. I want a header data. So I want EBL and BUKRS, Metner and TXZ01 as well. So I'm getting data, getting it in a normal internal table, then we'll pass it on to some sort of destination. So I'll just say EBLN, EBLP, UKRS, Metner, TXZ01 from EKKO as EH, and I'll be just getting the data from EKPO as EL and just joining it. I can say EBLN equal to, and I'll be specifying an internal table which would contain the set of information I'm extracting. As there might be some sort of discrepancy in the column identification, let me just specify from which table I want which column to get picked up. As I do have the set of information available with me, I will just try passing this set of information into my destination structure. So I will just say fill the mesh tables. I'll just say move corresponding this LTPO data to my ls mesh, and it is containing the data header data in the PO details, and same way it contains the item information in an item detail. I'll just say pretty print, activate this and see the information which are now populated to the header and item detail. If I just say execute, if you see I'm getting a dump. I'm getting a dump because I am getting a duplicate key error. Okay, it says you have specified a unique, or we can say shorted table, and the primary key of the table, okay, should be a unique one, and you are trying to provide some sort of multiple entries for one example purchase order 4500194. This is not acceptable because you are providing a shorted table with a unique key, and now you are trying to provide a data which is not unique. So how I can populate the information over here? For that, let's just try using some sort of again move corresponding, but with a different flavor. I'll just say ls mesh over here, PO details equal to, here we have one more keyword with us called corresponding. And this corresponding structure of output would be something which is there on the left hand side. I can say LTPO data I am passing. Here, after passing the information, we would be specifying one more addition. That addition is called discarding duplicates. What it would allow you is, it would discard the amount of duplicate when it comes to an assignment of the header information, and it would only assign the unique information to the target structure. Same goes with the item. Though it can contain duplicate data because the key that we have specified is a non-unique key, we can also use the same for this. If I just say activate now, here header and item detail does have the set of information. Header detail contains 6,082 purchase orders and its line item are 25,954. They are now available as a part of my ls mesh. So we do have the data now in my header and the line item records. Now let's just try to perform some sort of operation in this particular records. First operation that we will be performing on a mesh is called forward association. We would be performing an operation called forward association with the help of which we would be able to read the line item data with reference to header data. So let's just say you have a reference of a header data available with you and you want to derive the line item out of that. For example, if I want to read the fifth number of line item of LSPO item, what I would say, I would just say LSPO item and here I'll just say 5. But this would become a direct reading of an internal table. I don't want to do that. Let's just say I have one shot of identity of what my header record would be looking like. And based on that header record, I want to read the line item. Okay, and that is termed as a forward association. How we would be doing that? I would be saying my ls item would be read with the help of a header record. So when I say with the help of a header record, I'll just say header. And here I would be providing the name of association. So what is the name of association? It is 2PO item. So PO 2PO item is the relationship of PO detail header data with the line item data. Why it is required to specify the name of association? Because there can be n number of association which this header data might be linked to. So I am saying ls mesh PO details is now willing to get the line item information which it is relating to with the help of this association. And here I have to provide the header data which I am having the reference to. So let's just say I want to read the header data, or we can say I want to read the line item data which is correlating with that of the header data, and that header data I am having is, let's just say I want to read the fifth number of header record, and with reference to that fifth number of header record, I want to derive its line item. If I just do a syntax check, okay, yeah, discarding duplicates is redundant because this does not have a unique key, but that is fine. If I just say execute over here, here I would be able to derive the ls line item information. So this header detail over here is having fifth number of record, which is 42all0003. This is the record, and its relevant line item would be read from its relevant line item table, which is again this particular 16027 washer size 20, and that is something which this particular forward association would help us reading. That is something we can call it as a forward association, which would help us read the line item information with reference to that of the header data. Okay. To have another, or we can say reverse set of relation as well, where with the help of a line item information, we would be able to read the header set of information as well. I can say inverse association. Inverse association is the way of reading the header information with reference to line item information. So if we do have some sort of line item information that we are having access to, we can read its relevant header information. What would be the syntax for that? So for example, I want to read the header data. I do have the set of header data, but I want to read the header, I want to read the header data, but I don't want to touch the header data. I want to read it via item information. So I'll just say, okay, item. Here we are saying inverse association. So when we are saying inverse association, we would be again specifying a slash and an arrow, upward arrow, that is for the inverse. So like we specify association over here like this. Same way, we do have an inverse association which specify slash and arrow, name of the association. And as I mentioned, this association can have multiple header information linked to it. I want to get that particular relevant header information, which is only this one. So I'll just say till this. So it would get from this association only the information which is relevant to PO detail. And here I would be providing the reference for my line item. So I'll just say PO mesh, PO item, whatever is the 7th number of purchase order item, get me its relevant header information. That is what I am just asking the system to perform for me. If I just say activate, okay. So here in the LSPO item, if I just go, 7th number of record that I do have is 42ALL01001. Okay. And that particular purchase order's header information lying over here is again on the same record coincidentally, and we would be getting that information. But we are trying to read the line item information over here. So with the reference of line item information and by passing the inverse association, we would be able to read the header information. So this is the header information we are able to retrieve. Okay. This is a simple thing that we are reading, header with an item with a header. Let's just try to perform some sort of operation over here. Let's just try to perform some sort of deletion operation. So if I just go over here, let's just say in the ls mesh, if I just go, I do have some sort of, let's just say item over here. I want to get some sort of record where do I have multiple line item records. So I have, let's just say, for example, I have more than one record for 43ALL07. This is the purchase order for which I do have more than one records available. If I just go over here on the header level, it is available somewhere at line item number 17. So at line item number 17, I do have a header information where I do have more than one records available. And I want to delete all the line item information with reference to a header. So I can say I want to perform deletion operation with an association. I want to delete a line item record, but I don't want to tell that directly. I am trying to say that wherever I do have a record, wherever I do have a line item record of specific header, delete all those records of line item. For that, we have a keyword called delete table. As a part of delete table, we won't be specifying the line item directly. Instead, we would be saying like this. So there is a PO detail, and here I'm specifying EBLN equal to, for example. So I'm saying my purchase order header, where the purchase order number is this, delete all its relevant line item detail. If I just say activate this, if I just put a breakpoint somewhere over here, execute this ls mesh over here, it is containing 6082. 25954 is the number of item I do have. If I just say F6, it deleted just one record. If you just see, I just open that table. Again.
Sumit, this mesh concept is not that used, right?
That's the thing. Mesh concept is not used directly that much. So
Okay.
mesh concept does have something called association as a help, with the help of
Yeah.
which we are correlating multiple entities, and that is being used when it comes to a OData service. So if you see, we are linking header data with the item data, and when you
Yeah.
would be learning the REST API, there this concept is being used. But how the
Oh.
OData would be doing that? OData is internally creating a mesh out of that. That is something that we are not able to see directly, but the system is doing that. So
Okay.
internal infrastructure is something that we are able to kind of trying to learn over here. Maybe
Okay.
somewhere required, you might create a mesh, but till date, I have seen that people just learn that, but I haven't seen people using that directly.
Okay.
I think we have, yeah. So we have purchase order item deleted, but only one line item got deleted. Okay. All the line items are not deleted over here. So because the delete table that we used over here is a operation. This delete table operation that we learn over here is delete one to one. It deletes one line item with reference to one header. So this is delete one to one operation. If you want to delete all the line item with reference to the header, you can have a delete one to many operation. And for that, all you have to do is you have to just remove this table keyword. So this would be your delete one to many operation. So here, if you see, I do have all the particular information of a header and the line item. The header and the line item, the moment I say F6, that both the record of that relevant purchase order we specified is getting deleted now. Okay, so with the mesh, we can have forward association. Forward association is same as that of the navigation when it comes to an OData service. Inverse association is also an association, but with the relation of association to one. Because with the one line item, you can identify a set of header in record, and per line item, there would be one header record dedicated to that. So association would be converted into navigation when it comes to an OData service. That is something that we would be seeing as a part of the OData service that we would be generating out of CDS, that we would be starting from upcoming session. We would be learning that when it comes to gateway-based OData service, for which we would be sharing the recording as well. There, this association and navigation concept would be used very vastly. Okay. But that is what the mesh operation is helpful. Mesh operation perform all those operations when it comes to a multiple entity linkage. Okay. That is what this mesh operation is being used for. Is it clear till now?
Yeah, Sumit. If we practice once now, that would be
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, exactly. because I think the practice is definitely required. Specifically, practice is required for the one which are actually being used very vastly. For example, this translation, the reduce, the grouping, and all the operation that you can see. Okay, these are the one that I can change in my programming methodology going forward. We should actually practice at least for those. Yep. So and the corresponding operator we also learn. There are few things which are left, but I think as we have already connected from almost 3 hours now, let's just take a break. Okay, and this rest of the topic we would be covering initially in the upcoming session, and then we would be continuing with the CDS. So maybe we can call it a day, and we can continue with the rest of the session in the upcoming session, I guess. Rest of the topic in the upcoming
Yeah,
session.
hello, Sumit.
Yeah, Shiva.
Whenever I explain CDS views, please
Uh-huh.
explain how to find standard CDS views and how to debug and how to take performance. Actually, in interviews, they are asking so many questions like that. In AMDP, how to debug like that.
AMDP debugging is something that we would be seeing. We would be seeing everything. Okay, whatever topics you mentioned, definitely it's part of the agenda of our session.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we would be
Means
going through all of.
means performance how to take like that. They are
Def
asking.
yeah, definitely. I will be going through that for sure. Don't worry.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, then I guess we can call it a day. We'll see you again in the upcoming session. And I think timing, we can keep it as 10:30 going forward, or 11, because I can say 10:30 if we start, we can conclude at around 1, and I guess that would be good. So you can also,
Okay.
sorry,
10 o'clock, okay.
but I guess we have few people also who are feeling comfortable more at 10:30. So let's
Yeah,
just
no problem.
find out a
10:30 also, okay, no problem.
way in between, not 10, not 11, 10:30 would be good.
Yeah, okay, 10:30, okay.
Yep. Doro, I think you are trying to say something.
No,
But,
I was saying same only that I'm okay for 10 also.
okay, fine. So yeah, fine. I guess we can keep it as 10:30, and let's just experience that going forward. If you feel that okay, we can also prepone that, and I'm also fine. But let's just continue with 10:30 for now for the upcoming session. Then also it's of course our time. We can reschedule it anytime. That's not an issue.
Okay.
So let's just gather back at 10:30. I just reschedule this invite. Just send a revised invite with the 10:30, so you can join with a right set of notification. Then. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then see you all. Have a happy remaining weekend. See you all in the upcoming session.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you so much,
Bye.
Sumit. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.